Welcome to Factual America, where we dive deep into the issues shaping our nation's future, sometimes in ways you won't hear anywhere else. Today, we're tackling a provocative question that's been gaining traction across news outlets, dinner tables, and the halls of Congress. Is the U.S. military being deliberately weakened? In a rapidly shifting world, America's military has been its shield, deterrent, and global enforcer. But alarming headlines and insider testimony are painting a different picture. A fighting force at a crossroads grappling with internal and external pressures unlike any other era. So how did we get here? And who, if anyone, is pulling the strings? Let's start with the big picture. For generations, the United States military has not only defended our homeland, but also projected power, checked adversaries, and responded to global threats. In the years after World War II, the U.S. stood unchallenged, fielding the most advanced, best-funded armed forces the world had ever seen. But things are changing. Recent reports cite declining recruitment, lowered standards, wavering morale, and budget controversies. Some say these are signs of neglect. Others whisper about deliberate sabotage. So let's dig into recruitment, one of the roots of military strength. In 2023, all four branches of the armed forces missed their recruiting targets by significant margins. According to Pentagon data, the Army came up short by 15,000 enlistees, while the Air Force and Navy each fell thousands below their goals. Why is this happening and, more importantly, is it by design? Some point to a generation disillusioned with endless overseas wars. Others blame a battered reputation from recent military scandals. There's even talk that new recruitment standards, changed to include more diverse backgrounds, might be prioritizing social engineering over combat readiness. But here's the twist. Some internal documents suggest it isn't just shifting cultural tastes or public wariness. Recent whistleblowers from within the Department of Defense have indicated that certain recruitment offices have been quietly instructed to cool outreach to certain demographics, particularly rural and conservative regions that have traditionally supplied a disproportionate number of recruits. Why? Some say it's an attempt to rebalance the military's demographic profile. Critics argue that, whatever the intention, the effect is a direct hit to military readiness. That brings us to military standards. The Pentagon has, in recent years, issued revised training policies and fitness requirements. Gone are some old benchmarks that separated the wheat from the chaff. New training modules focus less on traditional combat skills and more on inclusion and safe spaces. Skeptics inside and outside the military are asking, are we preparing warriors or social workers in camouflage? Digging deeper, let's talk about wokeism, a topic that's stirred up enormous controversy. Senior commanders have openly admitted to incorporating diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) initiatives into both training and everyday operations. Some argue that a more inclusive military is stronger, more adaptable, and able to draw from a wider talent pool. But dissenters, including many retired generals, claim these policies have replaced merit with quotas and have even led to career officers retiring early in frustration. Now let's look at hardware and readiness. Despite an annual defense budget that eclipses most national economies, the military's frontline hardware, tanks, fighter jets, ships, is aging fast. Investigative journalists have documented how certain defense contractors continue to cash billions in taxpayer checks while producing equipment plagued by delays and cost overruns. Even worse, reports abound of new systems that are operationally unreliable, running on untested software, or dependent on foreign manufactured components. Where are the consequences? Let's bring this home with a stunning fact. According to official numbers, at any given time today, less than 60% of the Air Force's most advanced fighter jets are combat ready. The U.S. Navy faces a severe submarine shortage, unable to meet its operational deployment requirements. The Army is struggling to maintain even a third of its units at top readiness levels. Some claim this is a result of peacetime neglect. Others suspect a coordinated campaign to drain operational strength, reducing America's ability to intervene globally. We also need to examine the defense budget and how it's being spent. The U.S. military's annual budget just hit an astonishing $858 billion, yet readiness and recruitment continue to plunge. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are asking, where is this money going? While some funds go to personnel and operations, a growing portion is earmarked for gender-neutral barracks, cultural awareness workshops, and green energy retrofits. Critics claim these are luxury policies that do nothing to deter adversaries like China and Russia. But what about global threats? Russia's war in Ukraine and China's aggressive moves in the Pacific have both exposed serious U.S. capability gaps. Defense analysts warn that war games simulating a Taiwan conflict end in U.S. defeat unless major policy reversals take place. Foreign adversaries, once fearful of American strength, are openly mocking U.S. military priorities. Is this incompetence or a calculated bet that America will eventually cede its superpower status? Here's a reality most Americans rarely hear. According to leaked RAND Corporation documents, U.S. military leaders believe a major strategic defeat is just 5 to 10 years away unless drastic changes occur. Recruiting, equipment, morale, and training are all trending in the wrong direction. Some say it's a natural decline. Every great power wanes eventually. Others say the fingerprints of deliberate policy are all over this corrosion. Now let's peel back another layer. Foreign influence. Quiet but credible reports suggest that several prominent defense think tanks, tasked with shaping U.S. policy, receive millions in donations from foreign governments looking to undermine American readiness. It's a story that would have sounded like a Cold War thriller until FOIA requests revealed the receipts. If our very policies are being bought and paid for, who exactly does our current military serve? No discussion about weakening would be complete without the issue of military leadership turnover. Between 2021 and 2024 alone, the Pentagon saw an unprecedented number of resignations and early retirements among senior brass. Many left office citing a toxic political climate, loss of mission clarity, or moral exhaustion. When the best and brightest no longer believe in the system, what does that say about its future? Let's also address the quality of new recruits. With severe recruitment shortfalls, the military's standards for physical fitness, education, and even criminal background checks have been lowered in some cases. Critics say this trend takes us backward, not forward, to a diluted fighting force. Veterans and service members have shared stories about boot camps resembling summer camps and a culture more focused on non-offending than on warrior training. But here's something subtle and sinister. With the push for technology and drone warfare, military expertise is shifting away from warfighters and towards specialists in cyber operations, data analytics, and AI. While this might sound futuristic, former Pentagon officials warn that over-reliance on remote and digital warfare makes us dangerously vulnerable to hacking, sabotage, and EMP attacks. Are we trading grit for gadgets at the worst possible time? Let me drop another bombshell. Military family traditions are at risk. Historically, up to 80% of new recruits have come from families with a service background. But this number is plummeting. Why? Many military families express distrust of current policies and feel the service no longer embodies the values they fought to protect. If the backbone of American defense is turning away, what hope is there for the future? What about mental health and discipline? Recent Pentagon studies reveal that rates of depression, anxiety, and even suicide are increasing among service members. Some say it's a reflection of broader civilian trends, but others point directly to a lack of mission clarity, discipline breakdown, and leaders afraid to enforce standards for fear of political reprisal. Are we telling warriors to risk their lives but not hurt anyone's feelings? Yet even amid this gloom, there are patriots raising the alarm. Whistleblowers, outspoken veterans, and some legislators are demanding answers and accountability. Congressional hearings have been called, watchdog groups have formed, but every time the issue surfaces, it's quickly buried under bureaucratic jargon and stonewalling. Is transparency deliberately being sacrificed in favor of a narrative? All of this leaves us with the million-dollar question. Is the weakening of the U.S. military a result of benign neglect, well-intended but misguided policies, or something more deliberate? Perhaps it's a mixture. But when a nation that once led the world in military excellence begins to falter on every metric, Americans deserve to demand answers, and more importantly, accountability. So let's sum it up. Recruitment is floundering. Standards are changing, perhaps for the worse. Hardware is aging. Budget priorities are being questioned. There are whispers of both incompetence and intention behind the decline. Left unchecked, these trends don't just threaten military readiness, they threaten America itself. Now it's your turn. Do you think the U.S. military is being deliberately weakened, or do you see it as the product of changing times and inevitable bureaucratic blunders? Are the threats overblown or more serious than the public realizes? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to tell us what other hard questions you want us to tackle next. Subscribe to Factual America for more deep dives that challenge the mainstream narrative.